Recently, the Dalian Jinzhouwan International Airport construction project has attracted significant attention. This project, promoted as the world's largest artificial island airport under construction, is carrying out record-breaking land reclamation in the Bohai Sea region. Over the past decade, the Chinese Communist Party has aggressively pushed large-scale transportation infrastructure projects. However, many of these heavily funded initiatives fail to deliver expected social and economic benefits. Some projects have even caused destructive environmental impacts. The CCP's motivation behind these massive infrastructure projects are not purely economical. Instead, under the guise of civilian infrastructure, they serve dual purposes, including military objectives. These are often referred to as dual-use projects. Dalian is located on the southern tip of the Liaodong Peninsula in northeast China. It has a population of around 8 million. It is just a few hundred kilometers from South Korea and about 1,000 kilometers from Japan. As a key maritime and aviation hub in the Far East, Dalian has long been considered of significant military value. As early as 2011, Dalian began land reclamation projects to construct artificial islands. By 2024, it had largely completed an artificial island covering approximately 21 square kilometers. It's planned to feature a 900,000 square meter terminal and 4 runways, each 2,600 meters long. Once completed, it will handle up to 80 million trips and 1 million tons of cargo annually. The project is expected to be finished by 2035. In 2016, the airport's developers acknowledged the technical challenges posed by the offshore environment. They stated that the project required full consideration of geology, structural design, operations, and environmental factors, particularly the pressure to protect the ecological environment. In the past, similar projects have faced significant backlash. For instance, the Hongtangbei Offshore International Airport in Sanya, Hainan, caused severe damage to coral reef reserves, agricultural and fishing zones, and habitats for the Chinese white dolphin. In 2020, it was fined 80 million yuan and ordered to restore the affected areas. Some Chinese scholars have expressed concerns about the long-term consequences of land reclamation. In 2012, during China's 2 sessions, a member of the Shandong Provincial Political Consultative Conference, Gao Yueming, warned that land reclamation significantly reduces biodiversity in coastal areas, such as the large-scale loss of mangroves. He also noted that reclamation projects harm tidal flats and bays, reduce tidal capacity, and weakened the ocean's natural self-cleaning ability. Director of the Institute of Oceanology at the Chinese Academy of Sciences, Sun Song, criticized widespread reclamation projects, including artificial islands, as acts of self-destruction. He cited the 2011 Great East Japan earthquake as an example, where several reclaimed coastal areas were instantly submerged by the tsunami. He emphasized that the Yellow Sea and Bohai Sea regions lie along the Pacific Ring of Fire, making them vulnerable to similar disasters. Despite these warnings, experts' concerns have largely been ignored, reminiscent of the debates surrounding the construction of the Three Gorges Dam. Although the Bohai Sea region faces significant risks and environmental challenges, these issues seem to have been sidelined in the development of the Dalian Jinzhouwan International Airport. Under the CCP's rule, environmental concerns can either halt a construction project or be completely disregarded, depending on the CCP's true intentions. When political and military goals take precedent over economic, environmental, or social needs, the latter are sidelined. Livelihood issues and long-term planning are often ignored. Land reclamation projects face significant geological challenges in addition to their massive scale. According to engineers from the China Communications Construction Second Navigation Engineering Bureau, the biggest issue with land reclamation is foundation settlement. Even with techniques like jet grouting, vacuum preloading, or surcharge preloading, it's impossible to completely prevent settlement. These methods only help control settlement to some extent or within certain areas. For offshore reclamation projects like the Dalian Jinzhouwan International Airport, deep foundation settlement, uneven settlement, and differential settlement remain unavoidable issues. The construction team has implemented various measures to address these challenges, including drawing on international experience and using methods such as vacuum preloading, combined with surcharge preloading, dynamic compaction, and vibro-compacted stone columns. However, these issues remain ticking time bombs that threaten the airport's future operations. The challenges for the Dalian Jinzhouwan International Airport don't stop there. Director of China's National Development and Reform Commission's Institute of Land Development, Teng Fei, said the project faces significant investment pressure. Airport construction often requires hundreds of billions of yuan. As a high-risk province for local government debt, Liaoning's financing options are already limited. Furthermore, the airport will also face operational efficiency pressures once completed. Teng pointed out that an airport's profitability largely depends on the population it serves. With the rapid development of high-speed rail, airports face increasing competition, which could further squeeze profit margins. To succeed, the Dalian Airport will need to coordinate effectively with nearby cities. This may require the CCP to enforce administrative measures, compelling cooperation among cities in Liaoning and even the Beijing-Tianjin-Hebei region to create the so-called Airport Cluster Synergy Development Model. What exactly does Airport Cluster Synergy mean, and how will it improve or affect the Dalian Airport's operations? Does it imply that the airport's cost recovery will rely on preventing neighborhood governments from building their own airports? Building an artificial island airport through land reclamation allows for significant flexibility in choosing a location. It could have been placed near cities with larger populations, more economic activity, and better infrastructure. By contrast, Dalian's location on the Liaodong Peninsula is constrained by its geography, surrounded by water on three sides, and lacks well-developed land transportation links. Moreover, even Beijing Capital International Airport handles just over 60 million trips annually. Constructing an airport in Dalian with a projected capacity over 80 million trips, despite the significant engineering risks, investment challenges, and potential mismatches with local economic demand, is difficult to justify solely on economic grounds. The CCP's disregard for economic principles in issuing administrative orders reveals the true nature of this project. It's not uncommon for the CCP to build artificial islands for military purposes. Known for its infrastructure mania, the CCP often uses large-scale infrastructure projects to showcase its so-called strength while concealing hidden military agendas. The CCP has built high-grade railways and highways through remote mountain regions to the India-China border, preparing for potential escalations in border conflicts. In the disputed waters of the South China Sea, the CCP has used dredging to construct artificial islands, which have been heavily militarized. These actions have led to escalating violence and instability in the region, particularly with the Philippines and Vietnam, which have maritime sovereignty disputes with China. They have also highlighted global concerns about the CCP's increasingly aggressive military expansion. Dalian is strategically located near South Korea and Japan on the Bohai Sea, which connects to the Yellow Sea. Both South Korea and Japan, home to the world's largest U.S. military bases, are near this region. The CCP Navy's fleet, including aircraft carriers and other warships, frequently departs from the Bohai Sea, traversing the Yellow Sea, East China Sea, and Miyako Strait to enter the Philippine Sea. The Dalian Jinzhouwan International Airport's location is highly sensitive to South Korea and Japan, and its purpose of targeting U.S. forces in the region is evident. In recent years, countries around the world have become increasingly aware that almost every sector under the CCP has dual-use purposes for both civilian and military objectives. Beyond transportation infrastructure projects such as airports, ports, and railways, China's computer, telecommunications, aerospace, and space programs primarily serve military purposes. Many products thought to be purely civilian, such as cars, ships, machinery, and electronic devices like computers, refrigerators, and televisions, are in fact dual-use tools for gathering data and intelligence. China's mining operations, rare earth industries, and large-scale hydropower projects are viewed as strategic weapons serving political and military goals. Even international cultural initiatives such as Confucius Institutes, academic exchanges, and research funding are designed to steal technology, gather intelligence, and expand CCP influence. Every product and cultural export promoted by the CCP is essentially a weapon in its arsenal. For decades, whether China's economy appeared prosperous or struggling, it has consistently operated on a wartime economic model inherited from the Soviet Union. The CCP has remained in a state of perpetual conflict, both domestically and internationally. This reality has long been difficult for many Western politicians and ordinary citizens to understand, but the CCP's leadership has always been clear about the organization's operational model and true ideology. However, this is beginning to change. Several of the CCP's key dual-use overseas initiatives are collapsing. The Belt and Road Initiative has been exposed by participating countries for what it is, a project disguised as economic cooperation, but aimed at economic infiltration and military control through production and debt exports. The so-called Global Cooperation Project was once seen by CCP leaders as a cornerstone of their ambitions. They boasted confidently about the rise of the East and the decline of the West. Recent reports have linked a series of telecom scams in multiple countries to the Belt and Road Initiative. These operations have been confirmed as direct byproducts of the project. However, in recent years, as China's economy has rapidly declined and countries have become increasingly aware and resistant, the Belt and Road Initiative is now seen as one of the CCP's largest failed projects. It has been criticized for exporting debt, fostering criminal networks, and creating global instability. The Belt and Road Initiative has become one of the CCP's most notorious symbols. In addition, the global port empire built by Hong Kong's richest man, Ka-shing, is now viewed internationally as a dual-use enterprise, serving both civilian and military purposes. It has become a target for scrutiny by governments worldwide. Ka-shing's port expansion thrived in part because the CCP leveraged it to advance strategic interests like the Belt and Road Initiative. His credibility as a Hong Kong businessman also helped assure the international community that his operations were independent from Beijing's influence. Records show that Ka-shing's global port empire was no coincidence. In 1991, his company, Chongkong Holdings, became the first Chinese-owned firm to acquire a major British container port, Felixstowe. This acquisition sparked rapid expansion across continents, creating the world's largest transnational port business. Today, the empire spans 24 countries and 53 ports, playing a crucial role in global trade and occupying strategic locations. Outside China and Hong Kong, most of Li's overseas ports are concentrated in Europe, including the Netherlands, Germany, the UK, and Poland. These ports control key maritime routes connecting Europe with the rest of the world, including supply lines for military aid from the United States to Ukraine. The Middle East and Africa also feature prominently in his portfolio, with ports in Egypt and Saudi Arabia aligning closely with the Belt and Road Network. Ka-shing's port investments have a delicate relationship with CCP expansion. In Latin America, for instance, between 1999 and 2012, China's attempts to penetrate the region, known as America's backyard, sparked international concerns about the China threat. During the same period, Li significantly expanded into Latin America, investing in ports and infrastructure projects in countries like Panama, Paraguay, and the Bahamas, several of which were diplomatic allies of Taiwan at the time. Notably, in 1997, when Li invested in the Bahamas, the country severed ties with Taiwan. Similarly, after controlling the Panama Canal's strategic choke point for nearly a decade, Panama cut ties with Taiwan in 2017 and established relations with China. It then became the first Latin American country to join the Belt and Road Initiative. Following this, Chinese private and state-owned companies invested hundreds of millions of dollars in projects like cruise terminals and bridges across the canal. During this period, many Chinese state-owned enterprises attempted to acquire Latin American ports, but repeatedly failed. Meanwhile, Ka-shing, a Hong Kong businessman with close ties to the CCP leadership, including Jiang Zemin and Hu Jintao, faced little resistance in expanding internationally. For decades, Ka-shing was seen as a success story of Hong Kong's reliance on China and connection to the world. However, that success is now unraveling, and he faces increasing obstacles globally. In 2023, Gdynia Container Terminal in Poland drew significant attention from the Polish government after it refused to allow military ships transporting supplies to Ukraine to dock. This raised concerns about whether the company was acting under instructions from Beijing. On his first day in office, U.S. President Donald Trump ordered the Panamanian government to investigate whether the 2021 contract renewal for Ka-shing's subsidiary Panama Ports Company had harmed Panama's national interests. Panamanian officials promptly launched a comprehensive review of PPC's operations. In just over a year, Ka-shing, once a symbol of Hong Kong's business prowess, has been labeled by governments worldwide as a key proxy for the CCP's overseas expansions. His international business reputation has suffered a severe blow. The CCP's overseas expansion often hide behind private enterprises or economic cooperation. The Belt and Road Initiative and Ka-shing, as its maritime counterpart, have become major tools of CCP influence. Now, both are under intense scrutiny and face the risk of being dismantled. The Dalian Jinzhouwan International Airport, slated for completion by 2035, is another example. It's a costly project, disregarding economic feasibility, with the primary purpose of serving military operations against Taiwan. However, the CCP's plan has a critical flaw. It's running out of time. On January 24th, The Telegraph published an opinion piece by U.S. defense and military expert David Axe. It highlighted the U.S. Air Force's straightforward plan to counter a potential invasion of Taiwan. According to Axe, the strategy is almost uncomplicated. Axe explained that China's Navy is preparing to cross the 100-mile-wide Taiwan Strait and deploy troops on Taiwan's beaches. If the U.S. military intervenes, it must strike early, while the Chinese forces are still at sea, transporting personnel, equipment, and supplies. To execute this plan, the U.S. Air Force is accelerating efforts to equip more aircraft with advanced anti-ship missiles. The goal is to unleash a barrage of missile attacks during China's most vulnerable phase, as its forces attempt to cross the Taiwan Strait. A recent contract announcement by the U.S. Naval Air Systems Command revealed plans to integrate Lockheed Martin's AGM-138C long-range anti-ship missile onto F-15E Strike Eagle and F-15EX Eagle II aircraft. The U.S. Air Force has confirmed that 36 newly acquired F-15EX fighters will be permanently stationed at Kadena Air Base in Okinawa. If China strikes an attack on Taiwan, these aircraft can respond within hours to deliver an initial strike against Chinese forces. Most of the U.S. military's firepower against the Chinese fleet will come from B-1 Lancer bombers. Each B-1 can carry up to 24 anti-ship missiles per mission. Additionally, the U.S. Navy has equipped F-35C stealth fighters, F-A-18 Super Hornets, and P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft with anti-ship missiles. After the F-15s deliver their initial strikes, the Air Force can deploy half of its 45 B-1 bombers for a single mission, launching 650 anti-ship missiles to destroy key vessels in China's amphibious fleet. Reinforcements, including aircraft armed with precision-guided bombs and glide bombs, would soon follow. This would leave China's naval forces in ruins. On January 25th, the newly appointed U.S. Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, reiterated President Trump's doctrine of peace through strength in his inaugural message to the armed forces. He emphasized working with allies and partners to counter China's aggression in the Indo-Pacific region. The CCP's expansion by land and sea is being blocked, and the Jinzhouwan International Airport is still a decade away from completion. This dual-use project is destined to be an unprofitable failure.